Well, never mind all that stuff, because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered. Yeah, I know, amazing. But that means it's time for...
Living your life and you're feeling low. You don't know what is true. You don't know what's true. So you quick flip through the channels to watch Sunny on The View. Oh my God, the stuff she says is dumb. Where the hell they get this woman from? She's a host who's always crass and lame, with lots of nonsense to proclaim.
Sunny Hostin spiraled into a full-blown meltdown, and the intensity was so overwhelming it felt like even the studio lights were silently judging every breath she took as the chaos burst open with shocking speed. This wasn't some cosmic mix-up. Greg Gutfeld called her out with such sharp, direct force that even the teleprompter looked like it wanted to shut down and hide from the truth, hitting the room like a shockwave. The contradictions spilling out created chaos so wild it felt like a reality show collapsing in real time, with emotions flying everywhere as she unraveled faster than a bargain wig caught in a hurricane. Anyone who has ever watched The View could sense this collision coming, yet the moment still hit with the kind of twist you expect but can't tear your eyes away from. And when the cameras went dark, what she said was so unbelievable it froze everyone in stunned silence.
Make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Those hens are always clucking. They get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except on purpose. But every now and then, one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that washed up on the beach and you want to poke it with a stick.
Sunny Hostin finally cracked in, a way far beyond the usual tiny breaks that happen daily on The View, especially whenever someone dares to ask anything more complicated than, "What's your favorite color?" And this time, it turned into a full high-definition meltdown right in front of millions watching live. This wasn't basic chaos. This was a full 4K emotional collapse, powered completely by Greg Gutfeld, who revealed more contradictions in 2 minutes than the show has managed to avoid acknowledging in 20 years of pretending everything is perfectly fine. The moment he opened his mouth, the calm shattered instantly, and Sunny's polished composure slipped faster than anyone imagined she could lose it in real time.
So, Sunny, I bet you haven't been in a supermarket since COVID for about 3 years.
I haven't been in a supermarket since COVID. For about 3 years. That's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue I think for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs. You know those big Bounty towels you don't want to carry.
Those from Costco.
Somebody else those.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip.
It all began like any typical Tuesday on The View, which always feels less like a talk show and more like a loud group therapy session, packed with big affirmations, cheerful pats on the back, and a shared belief that they are saving democracy one dramatic moment at a time. Sunny Hostin, who steps into the legal expert role with the same energy a teenager brings to Guitar Hero, enthusiastic but completely off-key, stood front and center as usual, delivering deep-sounding comments that ultimately boiled down to blaming others for everything and treating facts as optional as long as they were spoken passionately enough to overpower real logic. All of that made her sudden slip even more intense, turning the moment into something impossible to ignore.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news.
If you've never watched The View, imagine the comment section of a political Facebook post suddenly brought to life and hosted by people who once skimmed a Wikipedia article about the Constitution and decided that made them instant experts, creating a whirlwind of loud opinions and uncertain confidence that somehow gets labeled as real discussion. Sunny fits right into that setup, taking on the role of the group's voice of reason. But only if your idea of reason includes shouting threat to democracy every time someone challenges her latte-fueled worldview, turning even simple disagreements into dramatic battles that feel much bigger than they actually are.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
But everything shifted the moment Greg Gutfeld stepped into the conversation. And that's when the entire scene exploded into pure chaotic entertainment no one on that set was prepared for. Greg isn't the polished type. Instead, he's like the bold guest at a dinner party who says the things everyone quietly thinks but never dares to say out loud. And Sunny walks straight into that energy without realizing sarcasm was still completely legal. The second he started listing her greatest hits of contradictions, she folded like a flimsy deck chair in a storm, unable to stay steady under the weight of her own words. Sunny has this unique ability to demand calm, thoughtful conversation, while recently labeling half the country as democracy-destroying goblins, which only works if everyone in the room agrees with her fully. Otherwise, she reacts as if someone is helping commit a serious crime. Her logic mixes courtroom drama with school cafeteria, emotions in the most chaotic way possible. And Greg didn't stop there. He dug deeper, pulling up receipts like he was auditing her entire public record. One moment she condemns family separations at the border, and the next, when her preferred leaders do the exact same thing, it somehow becomes a complex policy situation that average people can't understand, turning her contradictions into something she could embroider on a decorative pillow.
Oh, I'm going to milk this till the end of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Really? Do you think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing.
Greg laid everything out with sharp precision, showing that Sunny's outrage works like a light switch, instantly flipped on the moment a conservative sneezes, and flipped off when a liberal stumbles through the Constitution like it's a maze they barely recognize. She's the type who demands full investigations into someone's tweets while defending politicians who couldn't spell ethics even if you handed them the letters and a guidebook, making the whole scene feel like a comedy sketch that mistakenly turned serious. The audience reacted exactly as expected, cheering like loyal fans at a concert, even though Greg could have handed them a scrapbook filled with Sunny's contradictions, signed by Sunny herself, and they still would have booed him for spreading negativity. Naturally, Sunny did what many modern TV personalities are trained to do. She switched into victim mode with dramatic speed, using a trembling voice and well-polished tears from someone who clearly knows media training, transforming Greg's criticism into an emotional attack on women, minorities, and possibly every rescue puppy on the planet. When you can't win the argument, you expand the battlefield, and Sunny stretched it so wide that emotion became her only weapon, turning the moment into a spectacle of dramatic survival.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there.
Sunny, who has spent years tossing harsh labels at millions of Americans from her comfortable ABC seat, suddenly burst into tears because someone finally pointed out that she contradicts herself more often than a motivational speaker who keeps changing their message every few minutes, creating a moment that felt like emotional gymnastics gone completely wild. It was the kind of dramatic performance that could win a gold medal if the judges scored purely on lack of self-awareness. And The View reacted instantly by circling around her like an old Western standoff. Only this time, they were protecting her from the simple reality of being fact-checked on live television. Whoopi Goldberg even delivered a spirited pep talk that suggested facts are flexible as long as your feelings are strong enough, turning the whole moment into a display of emotional loyalty rather than actual truth. Behind the scenes, producers reportedly worried about Sunny's emotional state, treating a basic call-out of hypocrisy like a life-altering crisis, even though public figures face criticism every single day without falling apart. You'd think Sunny would be used to it by now, but this moment struck differently, adding even more intensity to her dramatic reaction.
Joy Behar gets racism. After all, she's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast. So Scott had to deal with Sunny Hostin and her typical self-righteousness.
This moment exploded because Greg Gutfeld dared to point out that the Emperor had no clothes, while Sunny sobbed into her designer coffee mug like the truth itself was too sharp to handle, creating a scene that spread across social media within minutes. Twitter erupted with memes, including one harsh edit calling her strong opinions, weak spine, and another mocking her meltdown with the caption, "When you realize receipts don't lie," proving just how quickly the internet can turn emotional chaos into entertainment. Even people who usually avoid political drama noticed the irony, because when you preach about civility while constantly insulting half the country, those contradictions stick to your reputation like glue. Meanwhile, Greg's segment skyrocketed online, his calm, sarcastic takedown resonating with viewers tired of hearing the same recycled talking points every week, making the moment feel like a breath of clarity. It exposed The View not as a real debate show, but as a live-action comment thread with studio lighting, where everyone follows the same script, and anyone brave enough to challenge it gets booed instantly, turning the whole situation into unforgettable chaos.
But unlike this chick, we didn't think it was the best thing that could have happened to us. Although it did get Joy Behar to wear a mask. People, you make me sick. It's funny, her being named Joy is like me being named ugly.
What made the situation even more entertaining was watching The View scramble to rewrite the narrative, suddenly insisting that the drama had nothing to do with Sunny's long list of contradictions and everything to do with protecting women from supposed personal attacks, turning a simple call-out into a grand emotional mission. They treated pointing out hypocrisy like it was some kind of national emergency, twisting the story until basic criticism sounded like a crime against humanity, even though anyone paying attention could clearly see the truth shining through. The show has turned into a safe bubble where ideas never survive real conversation, a place where Sunny Hostin and her co-hosts avoid genuine debate like it's something dangerous, choosing instead to run a daily self-esteem seminar disguised as political talk, filled with dramatic sighs and emotional speeches. The moment someone brings logic, consistency, or even a hint of sarcasm into the mix, everything collapses like a cheap umbrella in a storm. And Sunny's meltdown was bound to happen after years of stacking contradictions higher and higher. Greg Gutfeld barely pushed, metaphorically, and the entire tower of mixed messages crumbled right in front of everyone, leaving Sunny exposed in a way she clearly never expected.
Did you watch the whole thing or just the parts that I sent you?
I watched it. Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, what I would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off when she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic racism.
And of course, because no modern meltdown is ever complete without a dramatic makeover, Sunny delivered a teary speech about personal growth and the bravery of being vulnerable, hoping to turn the moment into something inspirational, even though everyone watching could see exactly what was happening. In simple terms, she wanted people to forget she had been caught twisting her own principles on live TV like she was juggling rules only she understood, hoping the emotional angle would bury the obvious truth. It was almost impressive watching The View transform a clear exposure of double standards into a lesson about healing and empowerment, as if they were producing a new superhero movie called The Gaslight Assemble, filled with dramatic pauses and emotional declarations. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld won without even lifting a finger. No shouting, no anger, just that calm smirk that irritates the easily offended because he understands the pattern perfectly. The moment you point out the emperor has no clothes, they accuse you of attacking body positivity, flipping the script until the whole thing becomes something entirely different. Sunny is now stuck in a loop, because every time she tries to climb back onto her moral high ground, people remind her of the moment she melted faster than butter in a microwave after being confronted with her own words, turning her into a walking meme she can't escape.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist. You see?
Sunny's emotional collapse became a perfect example of what happens when constant exaggeration finally crashes into real accountability, creating a moment so revealing it felt symbolic of the entire show itself. In a fair world, The View would use this chance to reflect and maybe consider inviting guests with different viewpoints so they could relearn how to have real conversations without someone collapsing into dramatic tears every time disagreement appears. But the chances of that are about as likely as Sunny winning a major honor for political courage. Instead, the show will probably double down with emotional comfort animals, guided breathing breaks, and a 3-part special explaining why feelings matter more than facts, shaping the drama into something soft and comforting instead of honest. Sunny will keep confusing altitude with moral authority. Acting like standing on the highest emotional hill automatically makes her correct, giving passionate speeches about truth while dodging anything resembling actual truth, like it's radioactive. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld will continue doing exactly what he does best, calmly pointing out that the emperor doesn't just lack clothes, he's demanding applause for his invisible outfit, creating a contrast that makes Sunny's dramatic moment look even more intense and unforgettable.
More time to talk. And I thought Will Smith wouldn't let a black man finish. If her IQ was half as high as her smugness, she'd be Einstein. And later it got weird after Whoopi Goldberg asked a question and Sunny chimed in again.
If nothing else, Sunny's meltdown delivered an unforgettable reminder that hypocrisy eventually collapses under its own weight, no matter how long someone tries to hide it, beneath emotional speeches and dramatic reactions. You can only mislead yourself and your audience for so long before reality finally steps in, and someone points and laughs, and this time the laughter spread across the internet with striking speed. Sunny Hostin's on-air breakdown wasn't just about being called out or even about political disagreements. It was about the unavoidable collision between fragile egos, exaggerated outrage, and the solid wall of truth that never moves no matter how much emotion you throw at it. The View spun its wheel of drama once again, and this time it landed directly on public embarrassment, leaving Sunny to deal with the aftermath while viewers watched in disbelief as her carefully crafted image cracked right on camera.